Welcome back, folks. All right, this is America in 1812, Part 2. After the Revolutionary War, each of the first three presidents of the United States wanted the United States and Great Britain to be friends again. Even before the Napoleonic Wars began, George Washington had tried to establish a peaceful relationship with the British. Under his leadership, the United States and Great Britain signed a treaty called Jay's Treaty. In this treaty, the British promised not to get involved or interfere with the United States' business activities. During this time, one of the most common ways for two countries to maintain a good relationship was to trade with each other. The United States sent flour and tobacco and other goods to Great Britain. Great Britain sent tea and manufactured goods to America. When the Napoleonic Wars began in Europe, France and Great Britain became enemies. The United States was caught in the middle. The U.S. government really did not want to have to get involved. Merchants in New England relied on trade with Great Britain to run their business. France had helped America during the Revolutionary War. The United States wanted to keep the friendship too. However, when the U.S. ships, cargo, and sailors were being threatened, especially by the British, the United States could not ignore it. In 1807, while Thomas Jefferson was president, something happened at sea that made the Americans very angry with the British. As they often did, a British ship stopped a U.S. ship at sea. The American ship was the USS Chesapeake. When the British commander demanded that the Chesapeake be searched, that American captain refused. The British commander did not like that. He ordered his men to open fire. Several American soldiers died in the attack. After that, many members of Congress began to call for war with Britain. Those members of Congress who wanted the United States to go to war were known as the War Hawks. As time went on, President Jefferson was losing patience with the British. He tried and tried to stop their aggression. In response to the attack on the USS Chesapeake, Thomas Jefferson passed the Embargo Act of 1807. The Embargo Act stated that U.S. ports would be closed to foreign ships, especially British ships. This meant that there would be no more trade with Britain. The U.S. government hoped that Britain would lose so much money that they would be forced to change their ways. However, the Embargo Act caused more problems for American farmers and merchants in New England and New York than it did for the British. The British simply traded with other nations. But the coastal New England towns depended upon trade with Britain. The merchants there were losing money by not being able to send or receive goods. In the end, the United States had to abandon the Embargo Act. You might think that what was happening at sea was enough to drive the United States to go to war with Great Britain. But there were even more problems on the American land. Even though Britain had lost the 13 colonies to America, it still had control of land in the northern Great Lakes region and the Northwestern Territories. Britain also controlled part of what is now Canada. The British had forts and outposts along the United States and Canadian border. Most Americans during this time were farmers. Many settlers were moving west in search of land to farm. The U.S. government began to suspect that the British were interfering with Americans who were settling in the northern territories, especially on the Ohio River Valley and the Indiana Territory. They believed that Britain was using its outposts in Canada to help Native Americans who were fighting to defend their land from the settlers. In 1811, many Native Americans fought to remove settlers from their land in the Battle of Tippecanoe. The U.S. Army fought back, and the American soldiers had reason to believe that the Native Americans received their weapons from the British. The British denied it. They insisted that they were only trading with the Native Americans and doing nothing more. But now the war hawks, those who supported going to war with Britain, were furious. The British were attacking American ships at sea, and now they were causing trouble on American soil. The war hawks in Congress put together a committee. Many of the war hawks' supporters in Congress were from the northern and western territories of the United States. They were the ones who were the most suspicious of the British. James Madison was the fourth president of the United States of America. Like the other presidents before him, he tried to find a way to avoid conflict with Britain. He knew that the United States was still a young nation with less than 8 million people. He knew they did not have a large army or navy. But the war hawks believed that if the United States was going to fight Britain, now was the time. Britain was busy fighting the Napoleonic Wars, and it would not have enough soldiers, sailors, and ships to fight the United States too. Some Americans thought that winning a war with Britain might also be an opportunity to gain more land. There was land on the north and to the south that they wanted. Finally, the war hawks wanted to prove that the United States was a strong country. Still, President Madison did not want to rush into war. He continued to ask the British government to stop interfering with the U.S. ships and to stop trading with the army and arming Native Americans. However, the British continued to ignore the president's requests, and the war hawks demanded war. James Madison finally agreed. On June 18th of 1812, the United States declared war on Great Britain.